Imagine taking the reins of your own life so completely that you actually transform every past wound into raw material. Every old story becomes a blueprint for something entirely new. What if the most profound act of creation you could ever undertake was, well, to become the architect of your own world? Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we unpack complex ideas, try to make them incredibly clear. Today, we're embarking on a journey of something called the Scala Gyorgyak. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, the Scala Gyorgyak, as it's laid out in these really profound philosophical texts we're using, it's a framework, right? A multi-stage system for personal transformation. It's kind of like a ladder for evolving your consciousness, mastering your reality. We're focusing specifically on the second step today, a really pivotal step. The shift from just, reflecting your reality to actively creating it. Now, the sources we're exploring, and these are serious philosophical texts, not just, say, self-help guides, they pose this bold idea, maybe even a bit intimidating at first glance. It's captured in the phrase, becoming God. So our mission today is to get past that provocative title, right? To really understand what becoming God means in practical, actionable terms. How does this philosophy help you escape feeling maybe overwhelmed by just all the information coming at you, all the external influences? And how can it empower you, really empower you, to gain knowledge that genuinely shifts your perspective, not just intellectually, but in a way that transforms your actions your whole life? We'll dig into the specific tools, the challenges involved, and the really profound implications of this whole transformative journey.
Okay, so let's really delve into this. That title, Becoming God, it certainly grabs your attention. It might sound a little intimidating, maybe even for some people a bit arrogant. What's the real meaning here? What's beyond that initial, shock value?
Yeah, it's a powerful phrase, no doubt.
Yeah.
But what's truly fascinating here is that becoming God, in the context of these texts, isn't about external power at all. It's not about dominion over others, and it's definitely not a literal theological claim. It's described very explicitly as a radical refusal, a refusal to remain merely the product of chance or, inherited traumas or just the ideas and stories that other people have imposed on you.
Okay, a refusal.
Exactly. It's about a profound shift, an internal shift in sovereignty. Imagine, metaphorically, raising your hands and gathering up all those fragmented pieces of your reality, your experiences, your beliefs, the memories, everything that makes you you, and then declaring, right, I choose how these get glued together. I choose the story these pieces tell. It's about becoming, as the text puts it, a god over your own inner theater.
Inner theater. I like that.
Yeah, not over the world, not over other people. It's a declaration of ultimate personal sovereignty. It's about reclaiming authorship of your own existence, your own inner narrative.
That explanation, that internal sovereignty, that really sets the stage for what comes next, I think, because the sources draw this powerful parallel to Prometheus.
Yeah.
The myth where he steals fire from the gods, gives it to humanity. That really jumped out at me. Can you elaborate on what that fire is for us? What's the equivalent we're meant to seize, from within ourselves today?
Right, the Prometheus analogy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that fire isn't some external force or like a magic power we grab. That fire is your consciousness itself. It's your inherent power of decision, your profound capacity to create, yes, but also to destroy old patterns and fundamentally to rewrite your own narrative.
You're right.
The text emphasizes this very directly, almost like a challenge, stating you no longer have excuses. Now, that sounds harsh, but it isn't about blaming you for your past. It's about empowering you for your future. It's the raw, unadulterated internal autonomy, the ability to shape your personal story, your inner world, and as a result, to deliberately influence your outer actions. This internal fire is described as being far more potent, really, than any external flame. Why? Because it directly dictates how you perceive reality and how you choose to interact with it.
Ah, perception is key then.
Absolutely. It's the power to say, okay, this is my internal operating system right now, but I choose its code. I can rewrite it.
Okay. So if the first step of the Scala Gyorgyak is all about that deep self-awareness, right? Seeing ourselves clearly like a mirror reflecting on the past, patterns, desires. Why do these texts insist that just observing, even deeply observing, isn't enough? What's the danger or maybe the limitation of just stopping there, even if you gain some really profound insights?
That is such a crucial question. Because if you only observe, the sources warn pretty strongly that you remain just a spectator of an old story. You're just an audience member in your own life.
Watching the same movie over and over.
Exactly. You might gain incredibly deep insights into your patterns, your traumas, your limiting beliefs, even the societal narratives that shaped you. You might understand it all perfectly. But if you don't act on those insights, if you don't then actively transform what you've observed, you're just watching the same play repeat itself, Maybe with a more informed perspective, sure, but it's still repeating.
Right, you see the pattern, but don't break it.
Precisely. The first step, reflection, is absolutely critical. Don't get me wrong. It allows you to have that aha moment. Okay, I am not just my thoughts. I am not defined solely by my traumas. I can observe them. They aren't the core of my being. That separation, that disidentification, it's a monumental realization. It really is. But the becoming God step, that's when you assume the full power, the responsibility to rewrite that story. You move from just witnessing what is to actively shaping what will be.
So you're not just seeing the script.
No. You step into the role of playwright and director. You decide the next scenes. The real danger of stopping at reflection is ending up in the kind of intellectual paralysis, you know, where awareness doesn't translate into active change.
Leaving you stuck.
It's like stuck in a loop of what you might call enlightened suffering. You understand why you suffer, but you don't change the conditions.
That makes perfect sense. So let's dive deeper into the second step then, moving beyond just reflection. The sources use this fantastic metaphor, moving from being a mirror to being a workshop. Can you really unpack what that shift means? Like, in terms of our internal processes, what does it practically feel like for someone on this path?
Absolutely. The mirror to workshop metaphor is brilliant, I think. On the first step, you are indeed the mirror. So you understand, you become incredibly clear on who you are, what hurts you, what you truly desire, your automatic reactions, those deep patterns. It's this process of profound self-awareness, shining a light everywhere inside.
Yeah.
But like we just said, the mirror itself doesn't make you free. It just shows what is. It doesn't change it. Now, on the second step, you become the workshop. Picture it at the sculptor's studio, maybe a craftsman's bench, even a high-tech lab. You don't just reflect light anymore. You model it, you manipulate it, you actually transform it. You don't just see the raw material of your life. All those experiences, beliefs, energies, you actively choose what to keep, what to discard, what to reconstruct, and what entirely new forms you want to forge.
Sort of very hands-on.
Very hands-on. This isn't just rethinking things. It's a deep, active engagement where you become the craftsman of your own inner architecture. Think about a workshop. It has tools, right? Processes. Even waste material.
Okay, so what are the tools for us?
Our tools are things like our focused will, our sharp discernment, our consistent effort, our capacity for conscious decision-making. The processes, things like the deep observation we'll talk about, the courageous rewriting of our inner narratives, the daily discipline involved.
And the waste.
The waste is all those limiting beliefs, the old unhelpful stories, the debilitating fears that we consciously choose to discard, knowing they no longer serve the grand design we're building. It's an active, transformative, and really an ongoing process. You engage with the very fabric of your inner world, shaping it according to your conscious, elevated will. You shift from being a passive receiver to an active, deliberate constructor.
This idea of turning any wound into raw material, that's incredibly potent. It sounds almost like a superpower, taking something that hurt us deeply and making it useful. But I imagine for some, that might sound like bypassing the pain or even denying it. How do these texts make sure this repurposing isn't just, intellectualizing or minimizing the very real hurt, but a genuine transformation?
That's a really critical distinction. The core idea of becoming God here is not to deny or ignore what hurt you. That would be bypassing, like you said. Instead, it's about taking that experience, that raw, sometimes painful data, and actively transforming its meaning and its power over you.
Okay, transforming the meaning.
Yes. It's about refusing to remain a passive victim of your past and instead becoming its alchemist. You're not pretending the wound didn't happen. You're recognizing its mark, its influence, and then consciously deciding what you will make of it now. The sources give some really vivid, almost poetic examples of this. Like, they suggest you can consciously declare, I grew up in fear, I melt it down and reshape it into courage.
Wow.
Now, that isn't just a mental trick. It implies deeply processing that fear, understanding its roots, maybe through reflection, and then actively choosing to embody courage in situations where fear used to dominate.
So it leads to different actions.
Exactly. Or another example. I lived in lies, now my truth is a weapon. This suggests that the experience of being deceived, or maybe living inauthentically, has forged an unshakable commitment to living in truth now. It's about consciously choosing to repurpose your past experiences. Not just passively accepting them, but actively extracting value, wisdom, strength from them, rather than letting them define or limit you. You don't erase the past. You transform its meaning and its impact on your present and future. You make it fuel for your new creation.
Can you give a more concrete example? The text mentions someone humiliated in childhood.
Yes, that's a powerful illustration. So a person who experienced significant humiliation as a child. Well, in the first step, the mirror phase, they'd become profoundly aware of how that shaped them, how it led to certain behaviors, maybe low self-esteem, avoiding attention, staying small. They'd see the unconscious programs running.
Okay, recognition first.
Right. But at the becoming God step, the second step, the transformation becomes active and palpable. Instead of being trapped by that old story of shame and powerlessness, they can choose, consciously choose, to become the leader of their own world. But, and this is crucial, it's not magic. It's not just wishing it were so. It's built by learning the skills they might need, maybe leadership skills, public speaking, setting boundaries, taking decisive action.
So practical skill building is part of it.
Absolutely. It's by assuming new responsibilities, stepping into roles that might feel uncomfortable at first, roles where they must lead in some way, even if just leading themselves differently. And crucially, it's by, as the text says, breezing change daily. This means the consistent micro actions, the conscious internal shifts. For instance, when that old thought pops up, don't speak up, you'll be ridiculed. They consciously choose to voice their opinion anyway, maybe in a meeting, maybe with a friend.
Even if it's scary.
Especially if it's scary, initially. Each time they do that, they're actively rewriting that internal script. This isn't passive acceptance of a new identity. It's an active, ongoing, daily effort of transformation. They embody the leadership they aspire to, fundamentally changing their relationship with that past humiliation and therefore their future.
That makes it much clearer. Okay, the idea of creating reality itself can still sound a bit abstract, maybe mystical, like something out of, I don't know, a fantasy novel. But the sources apparently break it down into a very tangible process, almost mechanical. How do they explain the concrete mechanics of this? How do they make it accessible and actionable for us?
They really do demystify it, stripping away any kind of woo-woo aspect entirely. The texts lay out this clear, almost undeniable chain reaction. They state that your repeated thoughts, whether you're aware of them or not, are the foundational architects of your reality. These thoughts, through sheer repetition, create your decisions. Your decisions then manifest as your actions. Your repeated actions solidify and become your habits.
Okay, thought, decision, action, habit.
Exactly. And then ultimately, your habits, the sum total of all these daily routines and internal patterns, become your life. So what you're constantly thinking, deciding, doing, repeating, that's literally building your reality, brick by painstaking brick.
Every little bit counts.
That's the unique insight here, I think. The insistence that there are no truly passive thoughts or actions. Every internal dialogue, every seemingly small choice is an active building block. It's not just about being mindful. It's about seeing your mind as this continuous construction site. Every moment is a moment of conscious creation or, alternatively, unconscious acceptance of the old blueprint.
Wow, okay.
So at this second step, the becoming God step, the very first real practical action is to actively corner your automatic thoughts. You have to learn to see them not as inherent truths about reality, but as, well, the text uses this powerful image, soldiers guarding a mental prison.
Soldiers guarding a prison.
Yeah. Once you identify them, the goal is to actively retrain them. Give them new marching orders that serve your conscious creative purpose rather than that outdated, limiting script they've been following.
Can you give an example of how that plays out?
Sure. Consider the stark difference it makes. Someone who repeats daily, often subconsciously, I'm not capable, or I'll never get ahead, or things like that don't happen for people like me. They will inevitably make decisions reflecting that belief. They'll avoid opportunities, shy away from challenges, maybe not even apply for the better job because they've already decided they won't get it. They stay small within their perceived limits, and guess what? They create a reality where they indeed don't get ahead.
They prove themselves right, in a way.
Exactly. Conversely, someone who consciously repeats, maybe through deliberate effort at first, okay, I don't know this yet, but I'm learning, or I'm resourceful, I can figure this out, or I'm capable of growth, they'll naturally make decisions that foster that growth. They'll seek out new information, embrace challenges, see mistakes not as proof of inadequacy, but as essential learning opportunities.
It changes everything.
It all starts with those internal dialogues, those seemingly small, repetitive thoughts that, when left unchecked, become the deep blueprints for your entire life. By cornering them, catching them, and retraining them, you seize control of the very first brick in that construction.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, making the unconscious conscious. But how do we actually catch these automatic thoughts, especially the ones that have been running on autopilot for years, maybe decades, influencing us without us even noticing? The sources suggest this deep observation practice. What does that actually look like day to day? How does someone implement that?
It's actually simpler in practice than it might sound. It doesn't necessarily require, sitting cross-legged meditating for hours, although meditation can certainly help develop the required awareness for some people. It's more about cultivating a specific kind of internal awareness, almost like being a mental detective about your own mind. It boils down to asking one simple but profoundly disruptive question consistently, daily. Why do I think this?
Why do I think this? Okay.
Yeah. So you catch yourself thinking, maybe I don't deserve to earn more money. You pause. And consciously, with genuine curiosity, not judgment, you ask, why? Who told me this? Where did this idea come from? What's the actual historical evidence supporting this belief in my life? Was it something a parent said? A past failure I misinterpreted? A societal message I absorbed?
Digging into the origin.
Exactly. Or maybe the thought is, I'll never find true love. I'm just unlucky. Challenge it. Why? What specific experience or experiences implanted that belief? Is it universally factually true, or is it just my current interpretation of a few past painful events?
Hmm.
And here's the crucial next step, heavily emphasizing the text for its power. I add these thoughts down.
Physically write them.
Yes. When you externalize them, get them out of your head and onto paper, they shrink. They lose their amorphous, invisible, monstrous power. They stop being these vague shadows holding you captive. They become tangible, identifiable words on a page. And once they're identifiable, they become manageable. The act of writing literally pulls them from the subconscious into the conscious light, allowing you to examine them critically. Like an architect finally seeing the faulty blueprint clearly so they can redraw it.
Okay. Writing it down makes it concrete. Then, after observing and identifying these ingrained thoughts, the next step is rewriting inner declarations. Now, this might seem basic, like, okay, positive affirmations, we've heard of that. Is it really effective in fundamentally shifting things, or is there more to it than just, repeating nice phrases to yourself?
It does sound almost banal, doesn't it? Too simple to be truly impactful. But the sources are very clear. While the concept is simple, the execution is incredibly hard work. It takes real grit.
Hard work, okay.
It requires unwavering consistency, real discipline, and a deep commitment to challenging and replacing those deeply ingrained thought patterns. Some of these might have been running your whole life. Yet the texts state unequivocally, it absolutely functions. It works if done with consistent, disciplined intent. This is not just superficial positive thinking. It's about rewiring your core beliefs.
So how does it differ?
Think of an old, deep, limiting thought, something like, people will always hurt me. I can't trust anyone. That's a protective belief, sure, but profoundly isolating, often rooted in past pain. The new mantra, the rewritten declaration, becomes something active and empowering. I am learning to choose the right people. I decide who enters my space. My boundaries are clear and my discernment is sharp. See the difference?
Yes, it's much more active, more about personal agency.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in your internal operating system, not just a feel-good phrase you repeat passively. When you repeat this new statement consistently and with genuine intention to embody it, it becomes the basis for radically different decisions and actions. You naturally start to stop tolerating toxic behavior in relationships because your new internal truth says you choose differently. You avoid entering new situations that just mirror old wounds because you're operating from active discernment now, not passive expectation or fear.
You break the pattern.
You break the pattern. You stop wasting time making excuses for why you stay stuck because you're actively creating a new reality where you are the chooser, the one setting the terms. This is active creation, literally building a new interpersonal reality for yourself, brick by brick, through the power of your declared truth. It fundamentally alters your experience of connection and trust.
Okay, I can see how that's much more than just affirmations. Now, it's easy to grasp these ideas in, grand philosophical terms, but how do they apply to the small, everyday struggles? The sources mention that micro-example about someone ignored as a child. How does the becoming God principle actually manifest in such a common, yet often deeply painful personal challenge like that?
It's fascinating how universal this process is, right down to the subtle ingrained behaviors. So someone ignored in childhood often develops this deep-seated tendency, often unconscious, not to speak clearly about what they want or need. Internally, the belief might be, my voice doesn't matter, or asking for things leads to rejection, or being ignored again.
Right, a protective mechanism that becomes limiting.
Exactly. And in their adult life, this can manifest in countless ways. They might let their job exhaust them, always taking on extra work without complaining, because they fear saying no will make them seem difficult or dispensable. Or maybe in friendships, they allow others to constantly consume their time and energy, never vocalizing their own needs or boundaries because they're prioritizing being chosen or needed over their own well-being. They become the classic yes person, often driven by that unconscious fear of abandonment or invisibility.
That sounds familiar for many people, I'm sure.
Definitely. Now, at the becoming God step, the internal shifts are profound. This person starts to consciously observe that inner script, the one whispering, "Don't rock the boat," or "Your needs aren't important."
Yeah.
They then begin to actively rewrite it, perhaps with a new internal declaration like, "My voice is valuable, my needs are valid, I have the right to choose how I spend my time and energy."
So changing the inner belief first.
Yes, but it's not just thinking it. It's about embodying it through action. They start learning to say no to unreasonable demands at work. Maybe their heart pounds the first few times, but they build courage with each boundary they successfully set. In friendships, they learn to declare, "Actually, I choose to do this activity, but I refuse that one." Reclaiming their time and energy based on their own desires, not just going along.
That's a huge shift.
It's a powerful act of creation. Creating a new boundary is creating a new world for yourself. A micro world, maybe, but your world nonetheless. It's a world where your needs start to be respected, where your time is valued, when your voice is heard, not because someone else gave permission, but because you decreed it internally and acted accordingly. It's a complete re-architecting of their personal interactions, replacing passive acceptance with active conscious choice.
That really brings it down to earth. Okay, so it works on the micro level. Can this concept scale up? Can it apply to bigger life challenges, major setbacks? The sources shared a macro example, I think, of a ruined entrepreneur. How does this becoming God principle apply when things feel devastatingly big, when the external reality seems so overwhelming?
Absolutely, it scales. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, this example is about the profound transformation of identity itself, right in the face of what looks like colossal failure. An entrepreneur who's lost everything, society, and often their own inner critic, tends to define them by that loss. The label failure sticks. The internal dialogue could be absolutely crushing. I'm incompetent. I'll never recover. I'm cursed. It's hopeless.
Yeah, it sounds realistic.
But instead of allowing that label, "I am a failure," to define him, this entrepreneur, operating from the becoming God step, consciously chooses to say something different. Maybe, "I am a builder of lessons. Every single misstep was a masterclass in what not to do next time."
Reframing the failure as learning. Exactly, but it's deeper than just reframing. It's not a delusion or just slapping a positive sticker on it. It's a fundamental shift in how he processes reality, how he relates to his own past. He engages in that deep observation. Why did the business fail? What were my actual blind spots? What underlying beliefs about success or risk or money led me down that specific path? Then he rewrites those limiting beliefs. For instance, replacing "I am just unlucky" with "I am the master of my own learning curve. I gather data and adjust." Now, here's the critical insight the text emphasizes. His second business venture won't just be a success because he simply tried again. His second business won't even resemble the first in its fundamental structure or operation because he no longer resembles the person who experienced the first failure.
Because he changed. Precisely. He has integrated the lessons deeply. He has consciously shed the limiting beliefs and perhaps the ego traps that contributed to the initial downfall. He has consciously rebuilt his internal operating system, his mindset, his approach to risk, his decision-making framework from the ground up, based on the data from the failure. This success isn't about luck suddenly changing or external circumstances magically improving. It's about a conscious, transformative decision to extract wisdom from adversity and apply it rigorously. That's creation on a grand scale, creating a new self, which then, almost by necessity, creates a new and fundamentally different reality, one built on hard-won wisdom and resilience.
Wow. That's powerful. Okay, but every powerful path seems to have its pitfalls. The sources give this stern warning about something called the umbra hybrosului, the shadow of hubris. This seems particularly relevant when you're talking about becoming God, right? That phrase itself could easily be misinterpreted and lead someone down the wrong path. What exactly is this danger? How does it manifest for someone genuinely trying to apply these principles?
You've hit on a really crucial point. This is the dark side, the potential shadow of realizing and wielding immense personal power, especially when that power is newly discovered or felt. The temptation, this umbra hybrosului, is to become blinded by ego once you start seeing results, once you realize, wow, I can actually transform my reality. I can overcome my past wounds and limitations.
The power goes to your head, basically.
Essentially, yes. The temptation is to start believing you now know everything,
Yeah.
that other people's perspectives don't really matter, that only your truth, your way, holds weight. The sources explicitly state, quite sternly, here fall the false gods.
False gods, meaning people who misuse this power.
Exactly. It's the insidious trap of self-absorption. The power that was meant for internal mastery, for self-creation, gets distorted into a sense of superiority, a detachment from external reality, maybe even contempt for those who haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Instead of becoming a humble master of your own destiny connected to reality, you risk becoming a prisoner of your own inflated self-importance. And that inevitably leads to isolation, stagnation, because you stop being open to learning, and ultimately self-destruction. Because you lose the capacity for objective self-correction and genuine connection with others and with reality itself. You start believing your own hype, and that's always dangerous ground.
Okay, so if that's the danger, if this shadow of hubris is a real threat, how do we avoid falling into that trap, especially when we're trying to cultivate this strong sense of personal power and authorship? What's the antidote?
The safe path, as the sources rigorously describe it, requires continuous daily correction. It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing practice of conscious self-assessment, a constant recalibration. The key question to ask yourself, consistently and with brutal honesty, is this: what did I create today, and did it serve anyone besides myself?
Ah, looking beyond the self.
Precisely. That question forces you to look beyond just your own desires, your own achievements, and consider your impact. Your impact on the world around you, on the people in your life, on the larger tapestry of existence. The texts talk about lucid humility. Now, this isn't about being meek or diminishing your power, quite the opposite. It means never forgetting that any creator, no matter how powerful or skilled they become in shaping their own reality, can destroy their own world in an instant.
How so?
Through arrogance, through neglecting the interconnectedness of things, by starting to believe their own illusions, and ignoring feedback from reality or from others. Lucid humility is about maintaining that connection to ground truth. It's a constant self-assessment to ensure your power serves constructive ends, not just self-aggrandizement. It's about making sure you remain connected to a larger purpose, one that inherently includes the well-being of others and values objective feedback. It's consciously choosing to remain a student, even as you become a master creator in your own life.
That distinction between self-creation and self-aggrandizement is so vital. Okay, what if someone gets stuck? What if they stop at the reflection stage, they understand themselves deeply, they've done all that hard introspective work, gained immense self-awareness, but they just don't move into this active creative phase, this becoming God step? What's the ultimate consequence of stopping there, according to these sources?
The sources issue a pretty stark warning about this. They state that the Scotty Gyorgyak, without the becoming God step active in your life, is ultimately just a collection of beautiful quotes.
Ouch. Just quotes.
Yeah, you can accumulate all the self-awareness in the world. You can analyze every thought, emotion, past trauma down to the microscopic level. You can understand why you are the way you are with incredible clarity. But if you only reflect, if you don't actively work to transform or rewrite your narrative based on that understanding, if you don't engage fully in the workshop phase, you remain stuck. Stuck in intellectual paralysis, in endless auto-analysis. You become, as the text metaphorically put it, a philosopher who knows everything but lives little.
Knowing, but not doing.
Exactly. You possess immense intellectual understanding of your patterns, your potential, your wounds, but without the active creation part, that knowledge remains inert. It's unapplied. And ultimately, that's incredibly frustrating. Furthermore, and this ties right back into the hubris discussion, there's another danger. If you recognize intellectually that you have the potential power of a creator, if you grasp your capacity to shape your reality, but you shy away from the immense responsibility that comes with it.
The hard work part.
Yes, the hard work, the daily transformation, the humility. If you shy away from that responsibility while still desiring the power, you are almost guaranteed, the text suggests, to fall into hybris. You become toxic, potentially to yourself and maybe to others, because you have this theoretical understanding of profound power, but without the practical, humble, daily, outward-looking application of it. This often leads to a deep sense of unfulfilled potential, bitterness, maybe resentment, and often an externalization of blame, because you still feel stuck, despite knowing so much.
Right. That makes sense. It really sounds like this whole journey requires ongoing commitment. It's not a one-time decision or a single flash of insight. So what are some practical ways to stay on track, to make sure we're continually applying these principles of creation in our daily lives, moving beyond just that initial spark or understanding?
That's right. Consistency is everything. Like building muscle or learning any skill. The sources provide a clear, actionable roadmap for staying on course. First, they suggest a simple but really powerful evening ritual. Every night before you sleep, just take a moment and ask yourself, what did I create today?
What did I create today?
Yes. And again, this isn't necessarily about grand achievements. Did you nurture a small idea? Did you initiate a difficult but meaningful conversation where you chose honesty over avoidance? Did you make one courageous decision that went against an old limiting pattern? Did you forge a moment of clarity amidst confusion? Each conscious act, no matter how small it seems, is a brick laid in your new reality. This practice relentlessly reinforces that mindset of active creation. It trains your mind to seek out and acknowledge your daily acts of authorship, however minor.
Okay, a daily check-in. What else?
Second, the sources strongly advise forming what they call a circle of correction. This means identifying and actively engaging with one or maybe two trusted individuals.
Who should these people be?
Could be a close friend, a respected mentor, maybe a therapist or a coach. Someone who possesses both wisdom and the courage to directly, honestly ask you the tough questions, like, are you really being honest with yourself right now? Or, is this action truly aligned with the person you're trying to become?
People who won't just tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. These are people who can potentially see your blind spots, who can challenge your unconscious assumptions or rationalizations, and provide objective, maybe even difficult, feedback, hopefully lovingly but directly. They hold you accountable to your higher intentions and help prevent you from slipping into self-deception or those ego traps we talked about.
That external check sounds vital.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our own minds are incredibly skilled at rationalizing and protecting old familiar patterns, even the ones we say we want to change. And third, and this acts as a powerful anchor, they suggest returning monthly to the core mantra, the core principle. Everything in my life I created or accepted, therefore I can recreate.
Repeating that mantra monthly.
Yes, revisiting it consciously. Because it's not just an affirmation, it's a principle of radical responsibility. It constantly reinforces that you are not merely a victim of circumstance, but an active participant, either through creation or acceptance in shaping your life. It helps you differentiate between what you actively created, maybe a habit you intentionally built, and what you passively accepted, perhaps a situation you drifted into or tolerated. The point is, both are now within your sphere of influence to change.
Okay, created or accepted. Both can be recreated.
Exactly. It empowers you to consciously recognize patterns that no longer serve you, regardless of their origin, and then actively shift them. It reminds you, month after month, of your inherent ongoing power to continually rebuild, refine, and improve your entire existence. It's like a monthly reset, grounding you back in your creative authority.
That's very practical. Okay, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, the sources offer a really powerful, concrete exercise for you, the listener, to begin applying these principles right away. It's presented as your first co-creation contract, like a personal agreement to really step into this role of author. What does this involve? How can someone implement it tangibly?
Yes, this is a direct, actionable call to action. It's designed to move these ideas from the abstract right into your personal, tangible reality. You're encouraged to actually sit down, maybe with a pen and paper, in a quiet moment, and deliberately write down the answers to three crucial questions. First, what are the three specific domains where you consciously choose right now to become a creator, rather than remaining a passive observer or just reacting to things? Be specific. Is it your physical health, your financial situation, your key relationships, your career path, your internal emotional world, your spiritual growth? Pick three core areas.
Okay, 3 specific domains. What's next?
Second, what specific reality or ingrained pattern within those domains, perhaps, do you absolutely refuse to leave on autopilot anymore? This is about identifying an area where you've felt passive, reactive, maybe stuck, and making a conscious decision. No more. I'm seizing control here. It could be something like, I refuse to automatically procrastinate on my creative projects, or I refuse to tolerate subtle disrespect in my primary relationship, or I refuse to let fear dictate my career choices. Name it.
And declaring what you'll no longer accept. Got it. And the third question.
Third, who do you become if you succeed in this transformation? This question is powerful because it forces you to visualize and connect emotionally with the elevated version of yourself, the new identity you are actively choosing to build through this process.
Connecting with the future self.
Precisely. It's about aligning with your desired future self, making that vision the magnet that pulls your daily actions forward. Who is the person who has successfully created change in those domains? What are they like? And then the text instructs you to take this physical sheet of paper, your personal co-creation contract, and leave it somewhere you will see it every single day.
Make it visible.
Yes. It's not just a mental exercise you do once and forget. It's meant to be a constant visual reminder, a tangible agreement you've made with yourself, a visible contract to actively participate in shaping your life rather than letting it be shaped by default, by old programming, or by external forces. It's your daily commitment to your own personal revolution, a persistent declaration of your sovereignty.
That's incredibly practical. I like that. And the sources apparently give an even more specific exercise to really drive this home. Something that moves beyond general domains into the very fabric of our thought patterns, our internal narratives. Can you walk us through that? It sounds like a really powerful way to rewrite those deep stories.
Certainly. This exercise goes right to the root, pinpointing this specific internal dialogue, the core limiting beliefs that are actually holding you back from the creation you desire in those chosen domains. So you take those same 3 key domains you identified earlier. Let's stick with money, relationships, and health, just as examples. For each one, you identify 2 very specific things. First, what specific part of this domain feels profoundly out of your control right now? Where do you feel most powerless, most stuck, maybe most victimized by circumstance or your own perceived limitations? Get really specific. And second, what is the main lie? The core limiting belief, the unconscious internal declaration that supports the old undesired pattern in this specific area. This requires brutal honesty, deep unflinching self-observation, acknowledging the narratives you've perhaps unknowingly bought into.
Identifying the core lie. That sounds tough, but necessary.
It is. And then comes the critical transformative step. How do you consciously rewrite that lie into a new, empowering truth? And again, this isn't just wishful thinking or superficial optimism. It's a conscious, deliberate reframing rooted in your awakened creative power, the power you're claiming in the second step.
Okay, can you give an example of that rewriting?
Sure. The text provides a simple, clear example for the domain of money. The old, deeply ingrained lie might be something like, I can't earn more, I don't deserve it, money is inherently scarce or hard for me to come by. So that's a deeply self-sabotaging belief system, right?
Definitely.
The powerful rewriting of this becomes, my value grows directly with the value I offer to the world. I deserve abundance because I actively create value. Or maybe, money flows to me easily as I align my actions with my purpose. Or for relationships, if the lie is, I'm always chosen last, I'm fundamentally unlovable, the rewritten truth might be, I am inherently worthy of deep, fulfilling connection. I attract relationships that reflect my true value and loving nature.
Changing the core belief.
Exactly. And for health, if the lie is, my body is fragile, I'm just prone to illness, it's genetic, the new truth could be, my body is resilient and possesses incredible innate healing capabilities. I choose daily actions that nourish and strengthen its vitality. See, it's not just about changing the words you say. It's about fundamentally changing your internal operating system. Shifting from a default mindset of lack, unworthiness, or fragility to one of value creation, deserved abundance, profound connection, and robust well-being. It fundamentally alters your perception and therefore your active approach to every single domain of your life.
Wow, okay. The journey up the Scala Gyorgyak, particularly the second step of becoming God, it really is a profound shift, isn't it? From just passively observing to actively, consciously creating. It feels like a radical call to arms for your own consciousness, a challenge to become the ultimate authority in your own life. The sources end with such a powerful image reminding us there is no forbidden sky. There are only doors you haven't had the courage to push. The old human, as these texts sort of frame it, waited for signs, for excuses, for blessings from outside, from fate, from other people, for permission, for rescue. The new human, as defined here, becomes the blessing. They become the source. It's an internal revolution, really, transforming your perception and your interaction with your own reality entirely from the inside out, making you the conscious, deliberate source of your own good fortune, your own fulfillment. But the Scala Gyorgyak doesn't climb itself. That's clear. It requires you, your daily observation, your unwavering commitment to rewriting your narrative, your courage to keep pushing those doors even when it's difficult. It requires you really to choose to become more than just a person affected by life, to become your own source. So as you reflect on this deep dive today, maybe consider this provocative thought drawn directly from our sources. Man does not inherit a perfect world. He inherits the one he dares to build. To be a new man is to dare to be God over your own destiny. What reality will you dare to build starting today?